Versatile Mage. Chapter 224 Killing someone in your spare time. I beg of you, please let me go. I was forced to do this. While he was stuck with the giant shadow spike, Quashi couldn't help but kneel before Mo Fan and beg for his pathetic life. 4 elements. It really was 4 elements. This objective had a total of 4 elemental magics. The Great Deacon did tell them that this objective was an innate dual element. If he used common sense, then the other party would awaken one more element when they reached the intermediate level. He should only have 3 elements. However, 4 elements. How could there be trust between humans now? Mo Fan wouldn't talk smack with these domesticated slaves. He glanced at the spirit wolf, whose jaws still showed fresh blood, and said indifferently, "Here's your midnight snack." The spirit wolf hadn't had its fill yet, and it knew that this follower of the Black Vatican was currently being controlled by the giant shadow spike and unable to make a move. It had been thinking about cleaning its teeth before, but then it realized that it would need to clean them again. Thus, it decided to first rip its meal apart and then slowly eat it. Dark beasts were too smelly and extremely hard to swallow. However, the flavor of the followers of the Black Vatican wasn't bad. Quadruple A. The miserable final cry of the last follower of the Black Vatican reverberated through the factory. Mo Fan had already walked out of the factory toward Zhang Lulu, who was still bleeding. Mo Fan had seen Zhang Lulu before. She was the girlfriend of Zhu Zhaoting. However, the current Zhang Lulu had already fainted. Originally, he wanted to ask her to keep the secret of his 4 elements. However, it was clear that she had already passed out by the time he had used the fire element. Fortunately, Mo Fan always carried some blood medicine. Although these blood medicines could not heal her completely, they could at least keep her alive. First, he had to stop the bleeding. Mo Fan picked up Zhang Lulu and put her on the back of the spirit wolf that had just finished its midnight snack. "We can head back," Mo Fan said to the spirit wolf. The spirit wolf spat out a bone, feeling very satisfied, before he carried Mo Fan and Zhang Lulu back toward the city. The city had regulations against summoned beasts. When Mo Fan arrived at a place where there were people, he had to take a taxi. Fortunately, Zhang Lulu's life was no longer in danger, otherwise, she would definitely have died from bleeding. The liquid from a dark beast's claw prevented blood from clotting. After taking Zhang Lulu to the closest hospital and paying a considerable amount for the hospital fee, a healing magician finally arrived and healed her. Zhang Lulu had lost a lot of blood and wouldn't wake up in a little while. Mo Fan knew that the hospital was just as safe as the school, so he left behind a contact number before returning to his apartment. "Sister Mew, where do you think that Shadow Beast is hiding? We still have nothing on it. It's so troublesome." Tutu's voice was audible from outside the door. Mo Fan opened the door and walked in. He didn't talk to the 2 girls, as he had too much on his mind. With a heavy heart, he walked up to his room. The 2 girls stopped the discussion for a while. After Mo Fan got to the 2nd floor and closed the door to his own room, they finally glanced at one another. "Why didn't you say anything? Are you against his personality?" "And he didn't even peek at Sister Mew's thighs this time," Tutu muttered. "What nonsense are you saying?" Mew Nujiao was a bit embarrassed. "Why did this little brat keep running her mouth off like that? Didn't you see that there was some tawny color on his clothes? It seemed to be dried blood," Tutu noted. Mew Nujiao didn't say a word. Based on the hint from before, he must have experienced a fight. The big bloodstain was relatively eye-catching. Just where did this guy go, and why was he covered in so much blood? Could it be that this great demon likes to kill people in his spare time? That blood clearly wasn't his, Tutu said. Mew Nujiao didn't want to randomly guess. However, she began to think about it. In a long alley, the few lamps seemed to only illuminate the surrounding 10 meters. On the green stone walls were a few wooden doors of the old style. Suddenly, one of the doors slowly opened, followed by a stinky creature crawling on 4 limbs, quickly charging in. It seemed to be carrying a living person as well. After this, a grey-cloaked man walked inside. Before he entered, he made sure to check the alley to ensure no one was following him. Inside the place was an old courtyard. There were trees there that no longer had any leaves. The courtyard was very messy. No one had cleaned the place. Standing on the staircase that led toward the old house was a man wearing half a mask. In his hand was something similar to a whip, which he used to lash the couple of disobedient dark beasts at his side, their flesh already lacerated from the punishment. "Great Deacon, our plan was ruined by this kid," Hui said. Zhu Zhaoting. Humph. The man with half a mask looked at Zhu Zhaoting, who was covered in dirt. The other half of his face that seemed fine let out a cold, cruel smile. Zhu Zhaoting was weak and had no strength remaining. However, he was able to recognize just who this strange person was. After looking carefully, Zhu Zhaoting spat with incredible anger. "It's you." Bo City was only so big. Those around the same age who were known as extraordinary naturally knew of one another. Yu Ang knew Zhu Zhaoting, and Zhu Zhaoting definitely recognized Yu Ang. However, Zhu Zhaoting had never imagined that the person Mu Juoyan had considered his successor was actually someone from the Black Vatican. It seemed like this person was definitely one of the ringleaders behind the disaster in Bo City. So it was an old acquaintance. "I'll have to give you some special treatments," Yu Ang said with a smile. "You half-faced monster, you must not know how to die." Zhu Zhaoting cursed him. Yu Ang's smile immediately disappeared. His entire being began to sink into a gloomy state. After his face was ruined, the one thing Yu Ang hated was to hear someone mention it. The places he went to nowadays were not even allowed to have a mirror. "I've told you before, I will give you a special treatment. Not a single person who goes against the Black Vatican will have a good life," Yu Ang said coldly. "Great Deacon, Hui Wu, Hui Si, Hui San, and Hui seem to have died," Hui whispered, his face suddenly turning pale. Was it the people from the magic court? Yu Ang's face immediately changed. It was the objective that came soon after. "He even saved the girl that came along with this kid," Hui said. When Zhu Zhaoting heard this, he couldn't help but sigh in relief. As long as Zhang Lulu was fine. He was really worried about her ending up in the hands of these insane people. The whip in Yu Ang's hand immediately lashed toward Zhu Zhaoting's face. It was clear that Yu Ang was extremely angry about losing 4 underlings in an instant. "You are happy about the girl who survived, aren't you?" Yu Ang walked over in front of Zhu Zhaoting. The whip in his hand lashed out mercilessly once again as he said ferociously, "I'll let the two of you regret being alive in this world." After saying that, Yu Ang directly dragged the bloody Zhu Zhaoting inside the old house. When Hui saw Yu Ang once again drag a living person into the house, his whole body couldn't help but shudder. In the Black Vatican, some people who had offended others or broken the rules would endure a pain worse than dying, especially when they ended up in the hands of this great deacon whose heart was increasingly twisted. Chapter end. Please guys like, comment, share, and subscribe.